Hello there, welcome to the channel. This is Nerd.World Films. This is where I like to sit, have a quiet conversation about movies that I love. Things that have inspired me, made me the person I am today, and in general, I really effing enjoy. First 3 minutes of the video, can't swear, must remember that. This video is not exactly about one of those movies. It is about The Day the Earth Stood Still, but we're going to talk about the 2008 one, and I hate to say this, I do. It ain't that great, in my personal opinion, but we're going to break it down and have a quick look at this film starring Keanu Reeves and Jaden Smith. Let's begin with like, share, subscribe, comment down below. You'll also find various playlists, most of them on the Nerd Talks, which is what this is. This is a nerd talking about a movie. And my favorite genre, being a nerd, is science fiction. Also, this is one of the greatest movies ever made, or at least it's based on one of the greatest movies ever made. Yeah. As I said, this film was released in 2008 and it stars Keanu Reeves in the titular role of Klaatu, the extraterrestrial posing as a human who comes to Earth to basically try to work out some problems and fails. In addition to the aforementioned Keanu and Jaden, this film also starred Jennifer Connelly, Kathy Bates and John Cleese in a headlining role in a movie he's in one scene of. Seriously, he's in one scene. But it's John Cleese, so they thought they'd put him near the top of the billing. The film is obviously based on the older movie of the same name made from back in the 50s. It was always political, this movie. In fact, the original movie I have almost nothing but good things to say about. And to be honest, in terms of story and trying to send a message, this film actually does make a point. Both movies are very much of their time. In a way, they're both speaking to real-world problems that exist on Earth with humanity at the relevant time that they are being created, and to that, it actually does a pretty decent job. Back in the 50s, the movie was referencing the Cold War and the general hostilities of the human race and how we just can't seem to get along. In the modern movie, the aliens have been watching humanity for a long time. In fact, the biological body of the alien that is born to Earth in a sort of a fleshy skin suit astronaut something or other goop is actually a genetic clone of a man that lived back in the 1950s. And he was, Keanu. And they took a DNA sample and they used it to create this body for this other creature to use as a sort of avatar of itself, for lack of a better term, just a rip off another franchise there, or maybe a homunculus if you want to use a much older term. And it's an interesting idea, actually. It's a pretty brilliant idea. It's fairly cerebral and it's quite interesting as a science fiction plot point. It is only a plot point though, and the movie carries on kind of without skipping a beat from there. In terms of what's happening in the film, if you're not familiar with it, as a basic overview of the story, the movie opens up, as I said, many years ago. It's a hiker up in the mountains. He gets kind of abducted by aliens. He wakes up in the snow and he's got a patch on his hand where they took a DNA sample. Fast forward to 2008, and this big sphere, which looks kind of funky, lands in New York. Out of it walks a thing. A soldier, just like in the original 50s movie, shoots the humanoid thing, and then Gort, the great robot, comes marching out afterwards and is about to, tear the living ever, past the 3-minute mark, shit, out of everybody there. And the alien tells it to stand down in its own language. Gort then moves into a sort of standby, but it should also be pointed out in the original movie, Gort was the name given to it by the alien. In this movie, Gort is an acronym given to it by the United States military. The US in particular is not shown in a particularly favorable light in this movie. Now I don't know if that's necessarily meant to be a social commentary. I don't think it is. I think it's just because that's where the movie is filmed. Humanity in general is not shown as being particularly good. Kathy Bates is introduced as the Secretary of Defense for the United States, and in a very cliched American arrogance, which is basically the overarching, predominant personality type of every single character in this movie who's not Klaatu or Jennifer Connelly's character. Hell, even her son. They're all kind of dicks. And they basically shown that they can't do anything other than drop bombs on the alien, shoot the alien. They won't let him talk to world leaders when he requested, and it's like, no, you got to tell us what you're doing here. They abduct the android that walked off the ship, sort of put it in a case, and they take it to an underground facility for study. They try to take over the ship. They try everything they can. And every time he just politely asks, and he sits there quietly, constantly, I just want to talk to your leaders. No, you can't talk to our leaders. It's got to go through us. And all of their responses are over the top. When he does escape, which he does with ease, they put out a manhunt for him. They just say he's a murderer or something, and they're like, no one can approach him. Just tell us you see him. And they put everyone looking for him. He turns around to them at one point and he says, I need to speak to your world leaders. And he's like, I'm the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America. With this incredible level of confidence when you're talking to a fucking alien, like it don't have any concept of who the United States of America is, what relevance that has. And when it says it wants to talk to representatives of the world, the United States is not representing the world. It's, as I said, they portray the Americans as very arrogant in this movie, as if they're the only voice the alien needs to hear. No one else matters. Not China, not Russia, not Britain, not France, not Australia, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, the Canary Islands. None of those people matter. Their voices are irrelevant. Now, to the alien, they're not irrelevant. He's interested in the world, the people, not one particular segment or faction of the world. And he's simply not interested in negotiating specifically with one people, but they can't accept that, so they kind of keep going at him. In the end, he never gets to speak to the people. He gets out, but Jennifer Connelly's character, she feels, he's misunderstood, he's here for a reason. She pretends to drug him, he escapes. She doesn't really drug him, of course. He then eventually winds up meeting up with her. It's kind of drawn out, but at the same time, never manages to really accomplish anything. He does make little nods that are so unsubtle to what his actual mission is that it's almost smacking you in the face with it. He says he's there for the Earth. He's there to save the Earth. He never says he's there to save humanity. And it should have been a red flag to everyone at that point. He kills people, but he does bring them back to life. But he makes it very clear that the human race is about to be wiped out. Basically, more of these spheres start turning up, and they're little arcs. They attract all the animals to them except for humans. They take DNA samples from everything so that they can basically obliterate the Earth and then put life back into it if life doesn't survive their extermination. They basically try to wipe the Earth clean of humans on all of our industry and our technology. And that's basically what Gort is there to do. In the original movie, Gort is just an android. In this one, he's some kind of nanoprobe machine, basically made of trillions of tiny little microscopic insects that start to replicate using any material they can come in contact with. And they destroy all of our technology and kill any human that they encounter once they're unleashed. Because the Americans wouldn't allow Klaatu to speak to not only their own leader, they wouldn't even speak to the president, but they wouldn't allow him to speak to the world leaders at the UN, which he specifically asked to go and speak to. He basically came to the conclusion, right, then you're not worth saving. I'm not even going to bother, because every action that humans take in response to him is aggressive, violent. They try to interrogate him, they try to torture him, they perform medical experiments on him, and they simply won't listen to him. They're literally out for whatever they can take from him and nothing more. They perceive him as a threat without realizing, although this film does portray one thing I do like much better than any other sci-fi I have ever seen, I think, off the top of my head right now. And that is, realistically, if an alien civilization with this level of technology came to Earth, we would be fucked. Royally fucked. There is no fucking way. It would be Warhammer, but we would be little more than a bug. You think about it. History, it even mentions it in the movie. Every time a technologically sophisticated and industrially superior culture encounters a less technologically sophisticated or culturally strong people, the weaker, less advanced civilization is destroyed, even if the bigger civilization has benevolent intentions. And what the Americans correctly predict in encountering Klaatu and his technology is that now they're the bug. It's no longer European colonials taking over the Americas and annihilating, either intentionally or unintentionally, many millions of people, mostly through disease that they spread to the locals who had no defense against it, as well as a systematic attempt to exterminate them. Even if the aliens have benevolent intentions, the Americans know, quite frankly, that history teaches us that doesn't matter. The weaker race will be absorbed, it will be destroyed. What they don't realize is this alien is basically there to give humanity an ultimatum, but because they weren't willing to listen, they couldn't hear it. He decided to make the decision for them. It turns out that the aliens, because they've been watching humans for a long time, there is another one of them there. And when Klaatu says to him, we need to leave, you can't stay here, he's like, no, I'm staying. I can't explain it, but there's another side to these people. Yeah, they're violent, they're full of hatred and bile, but they're also loving and kind. There's this other side to them that's just as passionate and just as powerful as their aggressive side. And eventually they try to convince Klaatu that, don't do this, that there is something else. They take him to see John Cleese, a kindred spirit, a man of maths and science, another scientist like himself, and the two bond. And the scientist, John Cleese's character, he goes, your civilization must have once been more primitive. And he's like, yes, but we learned when our sun was going supernova, we had to adapt in order to survive. We had to escape and get away. And he's like, well, your culture reached a crisis point. People, I have found personally, not talking about the movie, but this is basically what they were saying, is people don't change unless you make them. People tend to carry on living their life, living however they were currently living, until some force or someone comes along and splats them so hard that they have to change. Basically, if you're a thief, for example, you're going to keep stealing until someone straps some cuffs on you and stops you. It's that sort of mentality. Humanity, the message in it is humans will not stop doing what they are doing because they are pig-headed, bull-headed and selfish, and they're destroying the world, which is the message of the movie. It's eco-terrorism and the humans are the terrorists. The aliens want to protect Earth because there aren't many worlds like Earth in the universe, and humans are destroying it. So if humans won't learn, they need to be destroyed. And the scientists trying to say to Klaatu, look, we're at a crisis point and you're not giving us a chance to change. You're here to tell us you're going to wipe us out, just like your son was going to destroy you all those years ago. But you're not giving us the same opportunity. You're just basically turning up and saying you're going to be destroyed because you have failed, instead of turning up and saying, change or we will destroy you. Those are your options. And as I said, the film does make a very good case for, no matter what the humans throw at the aliens, it simply does nothing. It's literally the equivalent of someone throwing a rock quite gently at an Abrams battle tank and expecting to win that fight. The alien is so unfazed by the attack that it doesn't even really notice it's being attacked. That's how ineffectual human weapons were against the technology of Klaatu. And he wasn't even aboard a warship. He only had Gort there as any kind of military asset, and he was passive, only reacting when he needed to do, or it needed to do rather. So imagine what this race could do if they really wanted to. With one android, they were able to wipe the Earth clean of humanity if they really wanted to. Our technology was absolutely nothing to them. We were bugs, we were insects, we were pathetic. And quite frankly, the film does quite well at showing that realistically, if such an advanced race came, we'd be fucked. As I said before, we'd just be dead. But where the film falls down is it falls down for me on several levels. It falls down on its pacing. It's kind of got a confusing opener, which throws you for a second, with Keanu Reeves being in the past for some reason, and you wonder if the film's going to be set in the 50s. You eventually kind of work it out. This is not any shade at Keanu Reeves, because Keanu Reeves is a treasure and that man should be protected. But sometimes his deadpan, emotionless delivery makes him look very wooden. Now, I know he was in this movie, he's going for a thing, and there was a thing years ago that he couldn't really act. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that people used to say that because he gave a very deadpan delivery, it was like he was a one note. This movie, unfortunately, really plays to that cliche. Now, I know intellectually watching it, he's going for this sort of detached, emotionless, less passionate person. He's not actually human. He just looks human. He's in a human cloned body, but he is not human. He intellectually decides that humans need to survive, not emotionally decides. He decides he's going to give humanity that opportunity to change. But the path to showing it is very, very heavy-handed. The film's trying to say, the message, is that humanity is destroying the world, and if we don't change, we're going to be destroyed along with it. The world may go on without us, because realistically, we say we're going to destroy the world. We're not. The world will survive. Nature, life will survive. It will survive us if we do destroy the world. If all the things that everyone's warning us about, like global warming and other such things, are all true, which is a bigger topic that's not part of this video, by the way. If all those things happen and we die out and we take a lot of the ecosystem with us, even if just 1% of that ecosystem survives, there's life. Earth will go on, and we won't destroy it. We'll just make it unlivable for us, but something will go on. And the aliens are basically saying, we're going to wipe you out so everything else can go on, instead of saving all life on Earth, or rather saving one race at the sacrificing of all the other life. They're going to sacrifice one race to save everything else. They look at it as numbers, and from their point of view, we are nothing more than an animal. We're barely sentient because we're so less advanced than them. It's only when they interact with us that they realize there's something more to us. But the film's pacing and story beats don't do a good job of showing this, and there are several very distracting things. And this is going to sound perhaps a little bit like hating on a child actor, and it's not, but we all know the child actors, it's very, very hit or miss. And I even watched it on my DVD copy of this. I was watching the director talk about how it's really difficult to find a child actor who can portray emotion and all the characterizations that you want from a person to look real and genuine. They can't mimic it. And Jaden Smith he puts some effort in, he tries. But quite frankly, I didn't actually know it was Jaden Smith when I was watching the movie very recently. I rewatched it before making this video, and I'd not looked the film up. I watched it basically in bed, and usually when I'm watching a film, I'll be researching trivia and googling stuff while I'm watching it in thoughts of, am I going to make an episode about this? And I'll read up some stuff if there's anything interesting there, or if the film is piquing my interest, or in this case annoying me, and decide to make a video out of it. And I was watching and I thought, this kid is really irritating. He can't act, he's wooden, and he's very annoying. Now that is not saying that Jaden Smith is annoying or was annoying as a child actor. The dialogue he was given was annoying. The things he was asked to do were annoying. His character, I think, was meant to be supposed to be emotionally troubled from the loss of his dad, and he's now living with his stepmom only, which is perfectly understandable. But again, the film's a bit heavy-handed and everything, and basically he was a dick, which was my only sort of response to watching his character. Every time he was on screen, just thinking, this kid is a fucking dick. It's just like everyone in the movie, as I will point out, everyone in this film is a fucking dick. And Jaden in this movie is playing a dick, and I didn't realise it was Jaden Smith. So it was not an issue with Jaden Smith, it was just the character was a dick, and he was so annoying, it was distracting. He irritated the hell out of me all the way through the movie. And I remember from years ago when I first watched this, because I think this may only be the second time I've ever seen this film, that he really put me off liking the movie. And I already was kind of on the fence about it, because I love Keanu Reeves and I love Jennifer Connelly, love Kathy Bates, and I'm 50-50 on John Cleese because I'm not a big comedy fan, but I do like them. And the film, otherwise, it's got a great cast. They're just not given the material to really bite down on. For me, the cliche that they don't show humanity as having any nuance. There's only a few people, like Jennifer Connelly's character, that have anything to them. The rest are just one-note, cliche stereotypes. There to be basically bad guy meatbags to show that humanity is not capable of change. But then you encounter all the other people. Like, he encounters people on the street and how they love their children and they're looking out for each other and stuff. And it's like, that changes his mind. I'm like, yeah, that would be true. But why do we assume that the people in the military... I mean, it shows them having honor and dying with dignity and all this kind of stuff, but they're shown as just aggressive warmongers. And I think that does the film a disservice. It doesn't show humanity as having enough nuance for me. And the aliens as well are rather bullheaded. In the original movie, that wasn't the purpose, that wasn't what they were doing. And they've made it very, very heavy in this movie. Also because it's not, because it's a film, it's trying to tackle a bigger subject that I think a film struggles to tackle. A TV series is a better forum for such things. And tackling something this big usually requires either a very long film, a series of films, or a TV series. Look at Avatar, for example. In order to adequately comment on what it was trying to comment on, that movie's an uncomfortable, like 3 hours and a bit long, which feels like 20 hours when you're watching it. I'm not a big Avatar fan. But, and yeah, I know, it's a huge multi-billion-dollar movie, and I don't really care. I just don't care for it. I find it's too much CGI. Off the topic, this film also a little heavy on the CGI, which isn't great. There are some good performances in the movie. The fact that, for example, Jaden Smith is annoying me as a character in this movie, his character is really irritating, could actually have been an intentional thing. And if it was intentionally meant to be annoying, then fuck yeah, you did a good job. Well written character there. I don't think that's what they were going for, but you know, maybe. So, this video is starting to drag on because I'm rambling and generally disliking this movie. I will say it does have some good points. It's trying to say a good message. It is trying its best to live up to the legacy of a much older, quite frankly better made, although still very much a movie of its time, so it has its problems. But it falls flat for me personally on story beats, pacing, writing, CGI. So I'm gonna rank this film in my ranking. I might actually eventually need to do a ranking score of see how many films I've actually given good scores to. I'm only going to give this film a 2 out of 6. The reason I'm giving it such a piss poor rating is because the film is pretty piss poor. It wasn't well received. I think it was considered a financial bust at the time. For Keanu Reeves, it's a very big disappointment, especially coming off the back of movies like The Matrix and things at the time. And again, the cast are stellar. The film, side characters, main stars, all fantastic. And in other things you've seen them in, you know these people can bloody well act. Whatever your thoughts on Jaden Smith are, keep them to yourself. The rest of the cast, though, particularly people like Keanu and Kathy Bates in particular, they can act the shit out of everybody. And they're just not in this film. Because there's no dimension, there's no nuance, there's no subtlety. And the film really suffers for it. They're tackling a big subject, and you need to tackle a subject like that with intelligence and thoughtfulness. And instead, they're not trying to mimic the original movie. They do try and do it a little different, which is the right thing to have done. And they were right to modernize the philosophical message behind the movie. That was the correct decision, but I do feel the film lacked something. But let me know in the comments below your thoughts. Did you love this movie? Have you seen this movie? What's your thoughts on the original if you're going to compare the two together? Because people always say, oh, you shouldn't compare them, especially when they're so separate in years. But I disagree. Fuck that. You can compare them all you want. Do what you want. I compare them. I want to. We're going to reach the end of this video now. Again, thank you for watching. If you've made it all the way to the video, I appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon. And also check out the other channels I have listed in the comments section below. Not in the comments section, in the dialogue section below. I have other channels that are similar to this one, particularly Nerd.World Empire. The videos are a little shorter form on that channel, whereas I've rambled on a little longer than I usually do on this one. Just because it's easy to talk about a film you like and get the points out, but if I'm going to sit here and actually say I don't like something, I think I should try and at least explain why I don't like it. So that's why this video, I think, ended up a little longer than I would have liked it to have done. But we'll bring it to a close now. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. I'd just like to say a thank you to everyone for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy making these. If you did enjoy it, please consider giving a like, share, and a subscribe, and maybe checking out the other videos on the screen right now. And in the description box below, there are links to my other social media accounts.